Every story has a beginning, but the ending is determined by the journey. This would be the reality for a recently engaged young couple that had just begun a new life experience together, but in a twisted climatic story, truth and reality is sometimes not what it seems. This story begins with two vibrant people that have found love and companionship with each other, 30-year-old Jason and 28-year-old Olivia. They are both from humble beginnings. Jason is a lawyer for a major law firm, and Olivia is a marketing manager for a pharmaceutical company. They are both dedicated and committed to their work, but still find the time to build a solid and stable relationship. They live in an apartment in the heart of the city with the daily hustle and bustle of life. Sometimes the environment can be hectic. They have always had conversations about moving to a quiet neighborhood far from the city where they would have enough space and could start a family. Late on a faithful Friday night while Olivia was asleep, Jason was in the living room, scrolling online and looking on real estate properties. While scrolling, he stumbled on a house that particularly stood out. From the description, the house was spacious. It was in a quiet rural neighborhood, affordable, and it was a beautiful old home. Jason was intrigued by his findings as it checked most of his requirements, but unfortunately, the house had very few pictures posted and gave very little information about other details of the house. Jason, however, was not concerned about this, as he assumed the seller did not want much information about the house advertised. While Jason was in the dark living room looking at the house, he immediately had an eerie, uncomfortable feeling, as if someone was mysteriously in the room with him. The hair on the back of his neck started to raise, and the cold bumps on his skin started to heighten. Jason was confused about the sudden feeling and instantly locked down the laptop as his heart rate increased. He was confused as to why this feeling suddenly happened, as his eyes had a slight gaze. Jason then got up and went to bed as he was trying to sleep and forget about what had happened. The next morning, Jason woke up and told Olivia that he found a house that could potentially be a perfect match for them. Olivia was pleased about the findings, and they decided to get in contact with the seller to arrange viewing. Jason dialed the number, and it rang for a few times until it was eventually answered. A low, reserved male voice was heard on the other line. Jason then proceeded to tell the man about the house advertisement he found and that he was interested. But the man barely responded. He gave very short, directed answers and long pauses between replies. Jason found the man's demeanor to be unsettling, as his tone was almost robotic, with no emotions or feelings, and at times the man could be heard breathing heavily. Despite Jason's gut feelings, he decided to arrange to visit the property. Later that day on their journey, they noticed the houses in that area were lonely and far away from each other due to the large land space and vegetation. While Jason and Olivia were pulling up to the address, they could see a male figure standing in the driveway. They slowly came to a creeping stop at the foot of the driveway, as the man could be seen just looking at them with a deadly blank stare with his hands in his pocket. They both alighted from the vehicle and introduced themselves as they were the ones interested in the property. The man's demeanor slightly changed with a slight smirk as he introduced himself as Leo. As they walked up to the driveway leading to the house, Jason noticed by the side there was freshly dug up dirt, 2 large bags, and a shovel staked in the ground. He briefly had a worrying and concerned sinking feeling down his stomach to what he just saw, but quickly regained focus as they were touring the house, as Olivia's glee and excitement was evident. As they roamed each area in the house, they were more reassured that the house was exactly what they had envisioned and that they would be interested in it. Jason then stumbled upon a particular area in the house that seemed to be sealed off and freshly painted. When Jason asked Leo about this area, he responded with a slight head tilt and a blank cold stare, stating it was his old workstation that's no longer in use and was demolished years ago. Thinking nothing much of the answer, Jason accepted his response, but unknown to Jason and Olivia, that would be a grave mistake. After Jason and Olivia left, they were satisfied about the property and then began the process of acquiring the house. Months have now passed, and they began moving in and have adapted to their new life and home. But strange things have slowly started to happen a few months after settling in. There would be occasional sightings of an old pickup truck that would stop at the foot of the driveway, and no one would get out, just eerily observed from afar, no movement, no noise, no headlights. This would normally happen 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning, leaving Jason and Olivia very concerned. On a particular day, Jason was out in the backyard raking leaves when he stumbled upon an old journal partially dug in the ground. When he opened the book, he saw various images and writings depicting human sacrifices and rituals. Jason was shocked as he realized he came across an evil cult book. He quickly threw the book down in disbelief and abruptly finished what he was doing as he hurriedly went to the kitchen for water. Olivia inquired what was wrong as the anxious look was evident on his face, but Jason dismissed any concerns and tried to act normal. Later that day, Jason could not shake the feeling about his findings and decided to check the same area the previous owner said was no longer in use. He kneeled and started to push and kick the area to try and open it. Just as Olivia was coming around the corner, the area gave way, exposing a hidden room that was forgotten. They both were shocked as the area was much larger than they anticipated. Their concerns grew even more because this newfound space was not in the original floor plan or blueprint for the house. Jason looked in the room, staring in the dark abyss as he was uncertain if anyone or anything was in there looking back. There was a long pause, and then he asked Olivia for the flashlight. She hesitated out of fear, but eventually gave him. Jason took a deep breath and then proceeded in the darkness, taking each step carefully as he was entering the unknown. As Jason went deeper and deeper, the silence got deafening, as the only thing that could be heard was his footsteps on the hard floor. Jason then entered an area that was now dirt floor, and suddenly he was met with an overpowering stench that punctured the air as he tried to cover his nose. As he walked a bit further, he shined the flashlight in a corner, and the realization of the room was horrifically found. He was in an underground mass grave, as the bodies were wrapped in bags as some were partially exposed. Jason immediately tried to quickly escape the dark room as he frantically started to run, but during his exit, he could hear Olivia screaming in the house. Jason was now overcome with confusion and fright as to why she would be screaming so frantically as he ran and stumbled his way out of the darkness. Once he came out of the area, and now in the dining room, he did not see or hear anyone. The only thing observed was that the front door was left wide open. Jason called for Olivia, but there was no response. It was now nightfall, and he proceeded to go outside and look for her. As Jason examined the area, he saw an old pickup truck in the distance driving away from the house, and Olivia was seen in the vehicle. He instantly ran in the house, grabbed the keys to his car, and went in his vehicle to make chase. Jason was deadly focused on the pickup in the distance as he was going at high speeds, maneuvering each bend and gripping the steering wheel tightly. As Jason got closer and closer, he realized the pickup truck was the same one seen camping outside his home. He approached the pickup at high speeds, being very cautious as Olivia was inside. So he nudged the bumper of the truck to get the driver's attention, but the driver continued to drive. Jason then nudged the pickup, with more force causing him to swerve as they are now locked in an intense tussle. As Jason was preparing to nudge the pickup again, the driver braked suddenly as tires violently screeched in the calmness of night, causing Jason to aggressively crash in the rear of the pickup. In an instant chain of reaction, both drivers lost control and crashed into surrounding trees, causing a climatic end to the vehicle chase. There was a tense silence as the headlight of each vehicle was shining in the darkness. Jason suffered no injuries and slowly exited his vehicle as the door creaked. He cautiously approached the pickup as he was on high alert, looking around intensely as the sweat from adrenaline was running down his face. As Jason got closer, he could hear the driver door for the pickup opening. He was now very cautious as he was uncertain on what to expect. Jason was in utter shock as he saw the identity of the driver.